excited to be hosting this seed planting series in advance of Earth Day. We wanted to bring together our preeminent local solar supplier, Solar Solution, and Peter Parker is here with us today to spend some time talking with us about how we can integrate solar into our DC footprints. And I think one of the great things that Peter's going to talk a little bit about, which is why DC is a particularly unique spot to have folks install solar panels either on buildings or commercial spaces or homes. And part of that is because DC has a mandate to produce a certain amount of renewable energy within the district proper, and the utilities have an obligation to meet those requirements. But as you know, we have a pretty small footprint as a city. And so in order for us to be able to produce that renewable energy, we have to look to existing infrastructure to decide where we're going to place those panels. And obviously, if you were a bird looking down on the city, you would see a lot of rooftops. And that is, for us, the prime real estate with which we can leverage that in order to meet our carbon footprint reduction goals, which Peter will talk a little bit about. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. I'm particularly excited about this topic because I was one of the early adopters for solar in the district, and I couldn't quite figure out why it was such a great deal. At that time, the city was offering a pretty great rebate for folks adding solar to their houses, and the federal government was doing the same. And then there was something I heard about called srec, or renewable energy credits. And I wasn't quite sure what it was all about, but I did see the math and it penciled out for me very favorably. In other words, I don't pay much for my electricity when we use as much as we need. And some months we don't use all of our electricity, and we're able to substantially reduce our expenses on our energy consumption and do what's right for the planet. And I've also felt that the roof maintenance on our roof is paled in comparison to what we see for other folks. So it's really a win for everyone. Peter is joining us from Solar Solution, which is Solar Solution. It is a solution and it's a good one. They're a local company and he is on their commercial property management team. They're also a neighbor. I'm up in 16th Street Heights and they're just a block away, and they were an easy partner for me to consider when I decided to put solar on our home. They've also done solar for a lot of our other properties throughout the city and have been great to work with. So for us, we believe not only in being environmentally thoughtful, but economically thoughtful, and working with local providers is one of our key priorities. Today, they're going to join us to just give us as much background as possible on the ins and outs of solar and why it's important, and kind of what goes into exploring the idea of having solar and then getting those panels installed. We're joined by Emily England, who's going to help us kind of drive the presentation here in the background. And we've got Ben Pittler. Ben and I have been working throughout this year to think about different ways in which we can be a lot more visible and explicit about our environmental programs. This is one of those efforts. I'm excited to do that. We'll be moving kind of quickly through this presentation. There's a lot of content. All of it's actually really accessible, but if there's a moment in which you're thinking, oh, I wish I had written that down or taken better notes, or maybe if things had moved a little bit more slowly, I'd be able to jot that down. Don't worry, we're going to send this presentation out so folks can refer back to it. And of course, Peter, we found is incredibly accessible and thoughtful, very easy to work with, and very good at explaining these things. Peter's a DC native. He was born at GW Hospital, went to JMU, and is now living just down the street in Columbia Heights, and loves all things solar. He thought he was going to go into finance and real estate, and now he's in the solar orbit, but I actually think it's the same thing. Finance, real estate, and solar are in some ways one and the same. So he's marrying all those things together. So I'm going to introduce him. Peter, thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. And we'll get started with the agenda. I'm just going to walk through what he'll talk about, which is what is solar? What's the financial incentive for adding solar? He's going to talk a little bit about those renewable energy credits and the different tax incentives that you can enjoy by adding solar to your own kind of portfolio. the scientific specifics, which are actually pretty simple, how you turn solar power into actual energy that you use in your home, and why DC is particularly great for this kind of program. So we did get some advanced questions. We're going to try and pepper the answers throughout this presentation, but we'll also have a chance to kind of have an open discussion later on. And don't hesitate to put questions in the chat as well. So again, appreciate everyone being here. And Peter, without further ado, it's all yours.
Lisa, thank you. And I'm really happy everybody could join tonight. I do have the chat open. And as Lisa mentioned, please feel free to type something. I'll do my best to answer it. If not, we can always come back to the end. But we will try to get through this efficiently and quickly. Solar is very cool, everybody. In DC, what they've done has made it so accessible for homeowners to take advantage of opportunities. It's a much, much easier decision to go solar when it's cost affordable, it works, and it helps offset Pepco. What DC's done that is very unique revolves around the land area here and some aggressive policies thanks to Mayor Muriel Bowser, as well as just local legislation. The unique part about DC, which makes solar so exciting, and I like your point, Lisa, about the bird flying over, is it's no longer if, but truly when you go solar instead, because DC is required to hit 100% renewable energy by 2032, and that is written in stone. The most easy, accessible form of renewable energy in DC, due to certain land restrictions, is solar. There's lots and lots of rooftop space. And obviously, DC's not going to spend their time ripping up Rock Creek Park. They're not going to build it on the mall. They really, really are passing along the savings incentives to you. And it sounds a little crazy, but that is the reason the incentives are in place for homeowners to take advantage of the situation. And if we can go to the next slide. The two things I want to talk about solar, especially when I talk about commercial properties or residential, as I say, it's your house, it's your rules. You can do anything you want with solar, and there's lots of, we'll say, pushbacks, which we'll touch on. But the two things which are a given is solar is going to be good for the earth. On top of that, savings and for your wallet, solar can only be beneficial. So are there any negatives of going solar? I can be a bit biased, but I'll say no, because all homeowners who use solar save money. Depends on how many solar panels you have and exactly how much electricity that you use. But there are two things that are a given. You won't have to pay Pepco, and you will also get a property value increase by going solar. The figure you see is after 15 years, we all depreciate, unfortunately, even humans, but let's take advantage of the situation while we can. The bottom line and what I really want to get across today is what makes DC so unique compared to even Maryland or Virginia, and kind of how everything works, because it is a big decision and something that you should be comfortable and confident in making. All right, let's get the next slide. All right, we talked a lot about, briefly touched on the goods. It saves money, it's good for the environment. In my opinion, I think they look great, but I know that even I was a little bit nervous about first joining the solar industry. I had heard all these things. Solar is going to damage my roof. Solar is going to look ugly. Solar is going to, I can't install on flat roofs. And all of those things are just no longer true. And it's funny for me daily talking about solar, hearing people say, well, Peter, I actually talked to somebody 5 years ago, and they said, we can't install on flat roofs. I say it often, and I'll say it again and again, but this is your house, it's your rules. If you want the panels and Mickey Mouse on your roof and configured internally, trenched through your garage, we can do that. It's truly possible. So what makes DC so unique is, one, the amount of rooftop space, but two, our biggest concern is your roof too. It is bad news bears for any type of solar company to damage somebody's roof. So we go out of our way to make sure that that is completely, we'll say, unavoidable in all circumstances. We love row homes because the picture on the left, you can see we actually beam across. We elevate it above your roof. That means there's no punctures, there's no penetrations, there's no weight on the roof, there's no roof warranties voided. Additionally, again, your house, your rules. There's many different ways to install. The second most common method would be on the right, where it's just ballast blocks. And it sounds simple, but solar is truly the simplest form of energy. There's no moving parts. It's place the panels down and plug them in. And just however, to make that as safe as possible for your roof is our goal too. So let's go over some other common objections too. This is what I hear about kind of each day. If we can go to the sun also damages your roof, everybody. I have on the bottom of the slide, but adding an extra layer of protection does put your roof to work and will increase the lifetime of your roof. So another little benefit. All right, what's the next slide? So some other myths are just kind of common things I hear from different customers, or just questions, even kind of my personal life, talking about solar. Solar cells only work on sunny days, or solar panels don't last too long. They're fragile, they're going to break, or holy moly, solar's expensive. I don't have 15 years to wait for solar to pay off. I have different investment choices I need to make. All of these answers are just simply no longer true. And I do want to encourage anybody, maybe in the group, post a question real quick. Say, hey, I actually had this one hesitation or one concern that I thought about. Because I promise you, it's probably no longer likely. The only time we do have to penetrate into a roof is, it's rare, but it's going to be if it's a pitched roof. But lots of roofers now are getting so much more familiar with solar that they will extend their warranties to even cover that. I can name 5 off the top of my hand who they don't void warranties if solar is installed. In addition to that, we double down and we actually warrant your roof through a workmanship warranty. So any damage, leaks, really anything, we got you covered. So a little double dipping, but it's good to make sure your home is protected. We don't want any leaks. Any questions or any concerns maybe about other common myths or hesitations for solar? And if not, that's okay. We can always come back to the chat. So solar's cool, solar saves you money, and solar protects your roof. Let's talk about why this is possible, or how it's possible. If we can hit the next slide, Emily. Again, I'm going to say it over and over, but solar is simple. I want everybody to close their eyes and think about how the energy system works today, in the past, how it's been. And it's Pepco. Pepco does not they do not make electricity. The only thing that they have been very good at is charging us a little bit too much money to use electricity. And I don't know about you, but I like watching, little TV. I like having the sports on. I like sitting in some lights. The solar panels are only a different distributor of energy. Instead of having to force, consumers to buy electricity through a mandated grid, the solar panels are on your roof. Again, your house, your rules. The only thing that has to happen is to connect them to your nice breaker panel box, which is inside your home. Other than that, we'll see on the next slide too. Pepco's connected to your home currently by the electric panel and the net meter. The net meter is on everybody's house. The electric panel is clearly inside your house. So Pepco charges you because that meter runs consistently and it's just feeding incoming in this scenario from right to left. You see how they're connected exactly the same? It's a new distributor, a new supplier of energy. And this time it's right on the roof. There's no moving parts. I always make the joke that it's grown-up Tinker Toys because however they're installed, preferably beamed, protecting your roof, all there is the panel, no moving parts. What we use is a micro inverter, but it converts the electricity to be used safely in your home. And the same reason you can't just plug a car outlet into your car. There's AC and DC electricity. That's it. Other than that, the only other thing on the outside of your property is going to be an AC disconnect, and that's just for fire code reasons. Even your HVAC or a pool is legally required to have an outdoor disconnect. But once the panels are on your roof, you are producing electricity, and there's no need to purchase electricity from Pepco if you can source it from your roof instead. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Sometimes it gets overcomplicated. But solar is by far the easiest form of electricity, we'll say, out there in the world. There's no heat, there's no panels don't get hot, there's no fire concerns, there's no burning. So it's fun, it's easy. And what did I say on the side here? All right, so that's how power does work. As far as installation, it's really easy. go back one slide real quick, just to touch on one point, Emily, I'm sorry. It's one day. What's surprising, even to me still, is that no power is ever disrupted from the time solar is installed. And really, there's no lifestyle changes. The only change that you will physically and tangibly see is a reduction in your Pepco bill. Again, if you don't use Pepco's power, there's no reason for them to bill you. But electricity is electricity. We all use it. Why not source it from solar? Now I can go to the next slide, Emily. Thank you. So how do you know the solar's working? Is this real? Yes. We're in the business of helping people save money. And we actually give everybody a free monitoring system. And panels technologies improved so much. It's crazy. Where it's no longer like a Christmas light effect, where back in the day, if one panel got shaded, your entire system was also shaded. These panels are smart now. We can access and view things on our mobile phones. This is something that our customers can see exactly every single day, how much electricity is being produced at any given time. And what's really fun is even thinking about shade or access to it. There's circumstances of a full moon where you can actually see production occurring. The solar is pumping out electricity day in, day out, unless there's snow on top or sunlight is not being hit to the panels. But we live in DC and there's a lot of sunshine here. All righty, what was the next slide? All right, so solar power by the numbers. How is this all possible? Why is DC the #1 place? And the honest to God answer is local incentives. In the rest of the world, there's federal tax incentives. If you buy solar, you get a 20% tax credit, and that is a credit, not a deduction. So whether that money is in a bank account or as a deposit for solar, it's going to come back to you in your wallet guaranteed. That is off your federal income taxes, but if you buy $1,000 in solar equipment, you get back $260. So it's a nice just way to immediately reduce the cost of the system by a fourth. What DC is doing, which is so unique, and it goes back to the available land. There's nowhere that DC or a company can come in and build a solar farm that allows DC to reach their goals. That's why there's these high value srecs. And as Lisa touched on, the numbers are very lucrative. They're very profitable. It's actually very exciting. But these local DC solar renewable energy certificates essentially say for every one solar panel installed, then DC was going to give you $215 cold hard cash every single year. That is just for having solar on your roof. That is independent and separate than the electricity that is produced. You can quickly imagine how that's going to pick up economies of scale, more panels, more savings, more offset. However, more srecs too. 20 panel system will give you $4,000 cash every year just for having solar on your roof. So you can begin to imagine the amount of money that's being flushed into DC because of these incentives that DC's made. So as a company, we have the unique opportunity to provide, we'll say, various options for you in solar. As I mentioned, if you close your eyes and you say, Peter, I want to go solar, I don't have enough money to purchase a full $20,000 system. That's okay. There's a budget or an option for any budget. Full purchase, discounted purchase. There's $0 options. We work with the city all the time, and we give out $0 solar. Every single panel installed, again, is a different supplier of energy. What you would otherwise be paying to Pepco can be sourced from solar, and it's about 50 units of electricity per panel, and that's called a kilowatt hour. So kilowatt hour is the product of measurement of how much electricity that you use or is produced. And again, I know this is a lot of information, so please, by all means, ask questions. All right, one check, electricity storage. We do have solutions. It is new. So the Tesla Powerwall, there's N-phase battery storage systems. They call it the whole Enlighten system. I sound like a broken record, but it is your house, your rules. The electrical wiring is very easy any way that you want this to occur. I recommend adding it on later because costs will probably go down, but it is possible to have a battery that is hooked up in, say, grid utility tied system that has a battery storage to it. DC does have very favorable policies in place, exclusively net metering. And what that means is you're going to treat the grid like it's your battery. So even if you don't have a battery and you're gone for an entire year, you're going to come back to a whole year's worth of energy credits that have built up on your Pepco account. So usually what happens on a day-to-day basis is in the before times, we're gone during the day, we're at work, the solar's pumping out electricity. Emily, can you go back to that power wall one more time? Help explain. One more. Every time that you give back electricity to Pepco, and it's got to run from left all the way to right to that net meter, then you're going to get paid a dollar for dollar credit on your account. So whether you have a battery, don't have a battery, you're always utilizing the amount of electricity that you produce through solar. There are states like Texas where storage solutions are much more important because they don't have that net metering policy. And you want to save that power for different times in the day because they charge you different rates. DC has a flat, consistent rate, and they will always, always provide you that benefit on the account. So what usually happens is during the day, there's no appliances on, it's feeding Pepco, and then at nighttime, you are using Pepco's electricity at nighttime, but those credits that you accumulated have been sufficient, and you utilize those credits before Pepco can ask for more money. So that's my spiel on electric storage. No, do we need to install a different meter or the current Pepco meter run backwards? So that's a really good question, and it baffles me, to be honest, why it takes Pepco this long. But what a time to be alive, because it truly is just an iPhone upgrade or a Tesla upgrade. They call it over the air, but they essentially upgrade your meter virtually that allows it to roll back. So you're always having your refrigerator on, you're always having Wi-Fi on. When the sun is producing, the electricity's got to go somewhere. It gets really excited. It's like, oh man, I got to go somewhere. It's going to go directly to those appliances that are on. If and when there's excess electricity consumed, and that's the only way that Pepco can see it. But yes, it does roll backwards. Kind of long-winded answer, but I hope that helps. So nothing, again, no lifestyle changes, nothing changes except you see a reduction in your Pepco bill. All right, can we go back forward 2 slides? What was it? Can we go one more? Okay, so what is an srec? And this is kind of the bread and butter of DC, why we are so unique, why there's so much money here, why there can be fast paybacks and free solar. An srec is a solar renewable energy certificate or credit. Being technical about it, please read that. But essentially, legislation has put, in our case, renewable portfolio standard of 100% by 2030. No other state has that aggressive of a policy. Basically, DC's got a gun to Pepco's head that says a certain percentage of electricity has to come from exclusively solar. And so the utilities prove to DC because they don't want to be taxed. So they prove to DC that they are meeting those requirements on a yearly incrementing basis by showing DC that they essentially have srecs. So the srecs are created from solar arrays producing power. So each time that 1,000 units of electricity, 1,000 kilowatt hours, or 1 megawatt, it's all the same, it's just the metric system. 1,000 units of electricity is produced, regardless of whether it's used, whether you send it back, it is completely separate than the physical electricity that you use in your home. So that's why for us as a company, everybody's got to make money. We can help people save money, and then we hold on to the srecs for our long-term payback. But the simple answer, and this applies to homeowners, which obviously Lisa's very fond of, because she was one of the first actually people who got installed a solar solution, and she's seen it firsthand. Meet Sarah, meet Lisa. She has a 5 kilowatt solar power system. That system is going to produce a minimum amount of 5 srecs per year. And again, more panels, more kilowatt hours, etc. But it truly, truly is DC saying, hey, homeowners, we need you to go solar. And if you do, I will give you $400 for every time you produce that 1,000 units of electricity. So if you produce 5 SRECs in 1 year, that means DC's giving you $2,000 every year just for having solar on your roof, plus what you're saving on your electric bill. So it's not break the money, we're not breaking the bank, but this is date night money. This is vacation money. This is passive income at its finest, and it's very, very easy to acquire. So that's an SREC, and hopefully a 5-minute explanation and why it's so interesting, because DC, you can lock in future rates, essentially to promise and guarantee a payback. I always say if the sun turns off, all right, a question come in that says, is it 1,000 extra unused units or 1,000 units total? It is in total. So if you only produce 1,000 units of electricity the entire year, that means that you are going to receive 1 SREC, and you're also going to use 1,000 units of electricity. So if that 1,000 units of electricity offset your entire Pepco bill, you would never have to pay Pepco again, and DC's given you money to do that, which is crazy, but it's true. So it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you use it or don't use it. That's an asterisk. What is the next slide? Virginia's not, and this is a great timing, Lydia. There are very few states that are taking, or we'll say the SREC policies are in place. This is a little small, so I'll read them out, but this is why DC's crazy. And it goes back to the available land. It takes literally convincing homeowner by homeowner that 1, this is cool. Now the time to do it is better than it'll ever be. But 2, it's necessary. In Ohio, the SREC level is at $9.50. In Pennsylvania, it's $33. In Maryland, it's $77. But in DC, it's $415. What? That's crazy. So that's how, again, economies of scale. If you as a homeowner purchase this, it's a guaranteed 4.5-year payback, which is not possible in Maryland. It's not possible in Virginia. It's not possible anywhere else. But it really allows us to also offer very unique options to you, aside from the full purchase, because everywhere else in the world, the only way to pay off your solar system is through the federal tax credit and through your energy savings. Obviously, having $415 come in, kind of just cycling through, every time you hit it, it's a ticker mark and you get paid. It makes the payback extremely fast, but it allows us to offer amazing opportunities. It's a much easier decision to go solar when it's affordable or for $0, which is a perfect transition to the next slide. Okay, what is $0 solar? So again, it all comes back down to the SRECs, but again, we all have different investment choices we need to make. Consider there's just different financial situations. Some people might want to throw their life savings in a GameStop right now, who knows? But the $0 kind of program is the bread and butter of what we've been doing in the city for the past 13 years. So Solar Solution has been in business since 2008. That was really funny, Lisa. I think I did too. But the Solar Solution Power Purchase Agreement, Solar Solution will give you free solar panels. And free is a kind of fun word to throw around because we get contracted through the government to actually provide free solar for low-income residents. But for anybody, there's no qualifications, there's no credit checks, there's no thinking. And hopefully 2 words, I hope the graph explains it. But again, if you can source your electricity from a different supplier other than Pepco, then why would you not want to do it? So we will give you solar panels for $0. The electricity produced is your primary source of power, and it's going to come at a rate much lower than Pepco. If you can power your home through solar and only save, then why would you pay double to Pepco? So again, this opportunity, the orange line on the right is going to be what you are currently paying to Pepco. We've seen the rates go up. It goes up 4% annually over the past 10 years. If you want to save money, increase the property value of your home, do good for the earth, the community, it's easy. And we would love nothing more to give you panels. That blue line is where the electricity bill would drop to. It's the same amount of electricity, just coming for a cheaper rate. And we actually give you the panels for free. We donate it to you after 15 years. So after year 15, it drops down to that full ownership, or I say free electricity line. So if you were to purchase the panels and want to put down money through various options, full purchase, discounted, etc., you can see kind of the wide range of savings that are available to you. And then what's the next slide? Okay, so houses. It is really, really no longer if, but when you go solar, especially with the policies DC is pushing. They're only available while they are. So it's been going on for some time. We've been in business for 13 years. We install 5 houses every day. Everybody's got different concerns for different reasons, which are very valid. But again, it's your house, it's your rules. You can put on 1 panel, you can put on 10. And I just have a couple photos, just to show, hopefully, just different forms. Again, we love beaming it across from the party wall to party wall. This is somebody's shed or maybe a little cottage in the back, and they didn't want on their main house, but they're like, hey, I have a lot of room on a shed. I've had people say, can I put it in my backyard like it's on the grass? Anything is possible. And again, the only thing that's got to happen is connect to your breaker panel box. What's the next slide? Just a couple more pictures. And if anybody's interested or curious, please come into our office, shoot me an email. We take photos of every single house that we install. There's nothing that you could throw at us that we have not seen, whether it's historic, I don't know, a broken roof, flat roof, just solar is blowing up. So that's all the houses. It's really exciting. And so Lisa asked me to talk about kind of commercial properties too, multifamily or condos. And if you can go to the next slide, every single opportunity is the same. A condo or a multifamily is just a big house. And again, we can't beam on these guys, but you can see the racking system. There's a lot of space on rooftops for solar. And it's crazy how good of a job that these things do. It truly is a racking system, the panels and cinder blocks, and they're weighted down to withstand a Category 5 hurricane. So up to 170 miles an hour for 5 seconds. Where we're at in DC, just the chances of that happening are slim to none, and there's little cushions underneath everything. Again, so whether it's a big house, a small house, a commercial property, all the principles of how, let's say, somebody uses electricity is the same, and how you connect it is the same. So what's unique about multifamily, if anybody is interested in that, is the most, we'll say, agreeable solution is to connect it directly to the common area meter for any homeowner. I don't know, condo fees, if you can offset the elevators or the hallway lights, stuff like that, where otherwise you don't need to pay for it. But obviously, please type in and ask any questions about, we'll say, larger scale projects. But again, it's not like a broken record, but it is easy. All right, what is the next slide? Okay, so how can you take advantage of the solar energy? It's easy. Honestly, you just have to ask. Again, we very briefly touched on what an srec is, the tax credits, the amount of money being funneled into the city. But if you said, Peter, I'm really interested in solar, can I put no money down? Yes. Peter, I'm really interested. Is there a way I can get really cheap solar and own it? Yes. Peter, I really like those srecs. It was really, really exciting. Can you tell me more about them? It's going to cost a little more, but it's going to be 4 years break even. Yes. So really, really, if you're curious about it, it's exciting. It's something I'm passionate about, clearly. When I first learned about what was going on, I ended up quitting my job on the spot and then walking to different solar companies. It's crazy what an opportunity it is. So what was the final slide maybe? Okay, and then I keep touching on why Solar Solution is so great. And it's just because that we've been here. We're locally rooted in the community. We're here, have over 4,000 installations. Everybody in our company, works pretty much in the city. There's one person from Maryland, 2 people from Virginia. We don't outsource anything. So from the time that we first started talking to installation, if you want to keep your srecs, then absolutely, we can even help you register for those. Complete turnkey, many other companies, because of that high srec value, have rushed into DC, such as Tesla and Solar City. Lots of people want to take the money and run, and then they leave people stranded. And I think that's our biggest selling point, aside from financials alone. Obviously, the value of srecs. If we have over 8,000, we're getting paid every single year. Many, just financially rooted, socially rooted. We really have the customer's best interest in mind. We're here for you now, and we're going to be here 15, 20, 30 years down the road. We're not doing business anywhere else. We can do it in DC, or excuse me, Virginia or Maryland, but our hearts are here, and our hearts are with you guys. And then Nancy, I saw your question. Absolutely. I think Lisa's going to send a video or a link to everybody. And if you want, I would love to make my own video too, and have our own little presentation. And then finally, I think that might be it if we want to open up to more questions. The final,
Yeah, so if anybody has any questions, Peter, that was great. Nancy, you made the point that you'd like to share the video with your HOA, which is obviously a good idea. I think more and more we're seeing that there have been some advancements in solar technology to help us puzzle through how they might be effective on buildings with sort of a shared ownership. And while they're not going to be a huge money winner if the house panel doesn't serve much of the building. So we have a lot of buildings that are in this sort of like 10, 15, 20, 30 unit range, where you're just going to have a handful of hallways that are served by a common electric panel. But you can't sort of understate the value of, I think, the attractiveness that a solar array would offer potential buyers and residents, because I think that looks very favorable for buildings and sets them apart. And I think you also want to factor in what we've sort of been talking about all along, which is that the solar really does do a good job of protecting your roof. And that can be a win regardless of, of what your energy consumption looks like on any particular panel. I think Ben might have a few questions that we still want to cover. And if anybody else has them, please feel free to drop them in this.
I'm going to follow up just for Nancy's question for the HOA. You're exactly right, Lisa. It gets tricky for, let's say, like a 5-person condo. There's limited space on a roof, and that just is what it is. I would love to give 1,000 panels to one roof and be able to power every single unit. If it is individually metered, it gets into a battle of what's fair, who's fair, why do you get solar panels and I don't. But again, everything is possible. We can split things up 100 different ways if necessary. It is easiest to connect it to the house meter, or just those are the solutions. And listen, if there are units that they have all their electricity only going to one meter, and if you can offset that to offset everybody's, then that is the perfect situation. So honestly, afterwards, if you talk to the HOA or give me a Pepco bill, I can give you a straight yes or no answer of kind of how easy it is, because it's easy no matter what. But it might work out perfectly, and I know from a commercial standpoint, it's much easier to make it beneficial, even more so compared to a house. For Lydia, with the district's mandate, actually, I'm going to jump to Justin's question just because it's on a similar subject. Upper unit, 2-unit building, lower unit. Yes. So again, the only two things that have to occur for the solar panels have to go somewhere. So there's roof space. They have to be connected to that meter, and that meter is connected solely to that Pepco account, which Pepco bills you for. We split it up into 2 meters all the time. If somebody rents out their lower, English basement, but they want it on the upstairs and not downstairs, you can do half and half. Really, it's your house, your rules. It's easy. On to sharing this house with 2 meters. So if you only have one, let's say we can fit on 13 panels, it wouldn't make, honestly, too much financial sense to only connect 1 or 2 panels to 1 meter and have the rest go up top. So it's just kind of talking how much consumption does one household use, how much energy is the solar going to provide, and what would be maybe the most cost. Well, every bill's the same. Just where would you like to see the most amount of offset on the top or bottom? The Lydia, and then obviously ask me more if I'm not explaining well enough. For Lydia, The district's mandate, do you know if there'd be a mechanism by which you can sell extra units to commercial properties? So that's DC's net metering, where they pay you if you give back electricity. If you're talking about SRECs, if you, or excuse me, let me finish that first point. If you give back electricity to the grid, that electricity is going somewhere. It could be going to your neighbor. It could be going back to you. It's going somewhere. For the SRECs, it's got to be tied to that physical property address and the Pepco account in a way, because the mandates are being pushed through DC through Pepco. So we have investors who come in. I have one guy, his name's Adrian, and he's a developer, he builds houses. He says, Peter, holy moly, like the value of this is crazy. Can I purchase or help you guys purchase, let's say, panels to put on somewhere? And can I own the SRECs? Yes, of course. Easy. So do you know if it'll be mechanism? But you can't generate an SREC and sell it in another state. All SRECs are being sold to Pepco exclusively because they are required to show DC kind of X amount of SRECs per year. Can you sell back to Pepco more? So essentially, the credits, great question, Keith, and maybe Rob Miller. Can you sell back? Don't quote me on this yet. It's always been the easy answer is no. Pepco will never give you cash for excess electricity. There is talk of them doing that, but only if you have a consistent rolling negative balance for an entire year. So the people who do have 100% offset, then yes, you are producing more electricity than you are consuming. And then Pepco would give you that kind of lump sum payment at the end of the year. To be honest, that doesn't happen that much just because the seasonal pattern of the sun, longer days in the summer, higher sunshine in the winter, there is lower production just because lower sun, shorter days, where all the credits that you do accumulate during summer are really beneficial, especially in wintertime to, get you through the lower production months. Currently, it is a credit. It's like overpaying your credit card. And again, they'll never, ever go away. I say if you won the lottery and went on a sabbatical to the southern shores of Italy, you come back to an entire bank account of free energy. But that's not cash. SRECs are cash. Electricity is credits, if that makes sense.
Peter, one question that had come in before, I think you covered almost all of them except for this one. The asker was wondering about if they have a home that's energy efficient and already has low electric bills, is it kind of just a charity at that point where you're feeding solar energy into the grid and doing the right thing, or is there some more benefit?
No, because again, there's no lifestyle changes, and that's a great question. But the simple, easy answer is that you've reduced your amount of energy through energy efficient ways, LED lighting, better heating and cooling for windows. That doesn't mean that you're still not using electricity. Everybody uses it. When you don't have solar, then you are paying Pepco a premium for that electricity. So there's always a benefit, whether it's 1, 2 panels, 3. If you can offset your reliance on the grid, you've done a great job so far by reducing that amount of consumption. Why not source it from the sun? So that's the biggest thing is 1 panel is not going to make a difference, but any amount of solar or electricity that's going straight to your house is money that you're not spending otherwise to Pepco. Does that answer it, you think?
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay. Strange install question. Yeah, okay. That's a very exciting, especially from my point of view for the commercial side of things, is the canopy systems are becoming more and more, we'll say, accessible. Technology and solar is blowing up. So there's a couple installations in the city like Randolph Towers who have an exclusive canopy system on a commercial roof, and that's getting over all the HVAC equipment. We're doing that with carports right now. So if you have your vehicle charging, kind of Solar Solutions sister company is exclusively level 2 charging. So it's for electric cars. But people want that their rooftop to be the solar to plug in directly to their Tesla power wall to charge their Tesla. With a roof deck, again, I think panels are beautiful. it's easy, like a nice pergola. Absolutely. Again, it's your house, your rules. Yeah, we are literally just here to make it happen. If you dream it, it's more than likely possible, and just finding a creative solution together.
One concern that was brought up, is there any possibility of DC's srec value going down?
The only way that the srec market can fundamentally tank or crash is if there is an excess amount of solar that all of a sudden got installed and brought up online. So the easy answer is no, because it'd have to be such a crazy event where, I don't know, somebody out of New York or something built panels that, I don't know, went over both reservoirs. There's no space in DC for that to happen, which is why it's the land, like the usable space, is only residential rooftop and commercial rooftop. So is it possible? Yes. It follows the simple laws of supply and demand, where the more solar out there, then the lower the price that Pepco can bid essentially for that one srec. It's rare. We would not see the amount of money still coming in, the excitement. And we get calls from New York every day, like, "Hey, we heard about this. Can we buy some?" The only two places I can think of are the reservoirs, or if somebody covered, I don't know, the metro tracks that are above ground. Everything else is private property. And then historic boards. So for instance, Solar Solution just got a contract with the National Cathedral, but it's very, tricky dealing with historic regulations. So I just can't imagine, nobody can imagine the srec tank just tanking. And then just to talk about one more second about that, the time it would take to build that, you're talking at least 2-3 years out, where the value of the srec right now is so high with guaranteed returns. Even if that were to happen, you've already locked in your future rates with srec trade with that promised payback. So I tell people all the time, who cares? Who cares what happens after 5 years? Because my system is completely paid off. Thank you, DC. Thank you, srecs. If it does crash year 6, then it's as if we own solar everywhere else in the world. It's as if we bought it in Virginia right now. It's great. I have my solar. It's giving me electricity. Shoot, I would have loved that srec value, but oh well, So there's really, and again, I'm biased, but those guarantees are crazy.
I feel like I want to add more solar and I can't now. So
It's a good problem to have,
solar. But I did get into this business in part because I had some rentals, and I can say that I worked with Solar Solution to have solar put on the properties that I own. Not because there was any advantage for me, because my pocketbook, but because I knew that would be attractive to my tenants to have a lower energy bill. And once again, because I just felt like it was good for the roof, and it was just all around good business. So it was very easy to get done. It was, not a hassle at all for my residents. They seemed very happy to have that perk, and it was just totally turnkey. So even if you're not living in the property, I think that the barriers to entry are so few, if any. There's no reason not to explore it, even for an investment property, as just sort of a win or a way to differentiate your own property from that of another. And
if I can add on to that, Lisa, it's a great point. In thinking about how Solar Solution makes money, you own the panels, the equipment. There's ways to sell srecs. If it's an investment decision where you see the value, by all means, people put it on their homes, a rental home, and then they'll sell their home for the increased value of the solar. They get the 26% tax credit. You don't ever have to give away the srecs if you don't want to. You can move down to Florida and keep reaping the benefits of those payments because you installed the solar and you are the holder of those certificates. So every time that Solar Solution gives out free solar, we own, all those srecs. But that's possible on an individual level too. You can sell it for a future value to a new buyer. They'll probably know about it. But you can also be selfish and keep them and say, haha, I am going to continue making this money forever. And that's obviously until about 2040. And then hopefully DC's reach their goals and we'll see where the srec market's at. But it's always follow the money, I think, of Moneyball. Matt, it's really fascinating to see how money can, say, empower the people to make a change. And it goes without saying, the most important parts here are the earth and saving it. And that's what I'm passionate about. We all know that is a guarantee or given for solar. So I don't mean to be light about it. It's just a duh point. Like, solar's good. Yes. But I hope everybody got a little excited or realized what DC is doing for them.
Awesome. If only we had, representation in Congress and stuff, we would just be unstoppable right now, right?
That'd be great. That'd be great.
Maybe that's up next. So Peter, thank you so much for your time, and your enthusiasm was just fantastic. It was great.
Thank you. It's a curse of I love talking about it. I sit here and talk about it for hours if I have to. It's fun.
If only everybody could be so excited about their work, honestly, the world would be a better place.
Awesome.